Hello, this is Dr. Marty Klein with another video quickie. Today I'd like to talk about something that I hear a lot from new patients, which is, why are we talking about this instead of sex? About half of the people who come to me for an initial session are interested in changing their sex life. They've made the difficult leap to talk to a stranger about it. I always start with some straightforward questions: people's age, kids, hobbies, medications. And then I ask what they'd like from therapy, and they tell me their sexual situation. I ask a few questions about it, like, how long have you been upset about this? Or is it like this when you masturbate? Or have you spoken to your doctor about this? And then, depending on the answers, then I want to talk about other things such as guilt or shame or anger, body image, the nature of their current or previous relationship, and depression or anxiety, to name just a few. That's because for most people, sex is about more than sex. In addition to pleasure and closeness, sex may be about validation or humiliation, power or feeling accepted, feeling naughty or dirty, or the desire to feel graceful or young or feminine. The range of what people want from sex is almost endless. Here are a few notes about patients who wanted to talk about sex and who were impatient when I wanted to talk about stuff they initially thought was irrelevant. Let's start with two guys who came in with similar problems: unreliable erection and low desire. But their life stories were quite different, and so the context of their sexual problems were different. So let's talk first about Obrien, whose presenting problems were erection difficulties and low desire. At our very first session, he said to me, "I'm not assertive in bed, and my wife is disappointed about this, and if I had better erections, I'd feel more confident." Well, turns out Obrien isn't assertive about anything. He told me he could never be a manly man like his brother, who had been in the Marines and had fathered two kids with two different women. We talked about the meaning of masculinity. Did it have to be brutish? Did it have to be what some people call toxic? And we talked about assertiveness as a continuum, not as a binary. We explored him working with his wife to jointly establish their expectations of each other so he wasn't always feeling inadequate. And it became clear to him that feeling intimidated like he did undermined both his desire and his ability to get easily erect, and that's what he needed to focus on. Now with Rick, same problems: erection difficulties, low desire. He was engaged to the woman of his dreams. Well, for now, apparently they had broken up 2 or 3 times in the past year because, according to her, he was selfish and too attached to his parents. According to him, she was unappreciative and demanding. "Although I understand her upset," he sighed, "who wants a guy who can't get it up?" And then there was the pressure from his parents. "They just want to see me settled, and they think Emily is a nice girl," he said, "so I should just marry her already. But her kids don't like me, and she wants to have a kid with me, and I don't really feel ready for all that responsibility." This is Rick talking, and everybody says that at my age, Rick was 43, I should just grow up. Well, Rick really did believe that these various pressures should have no impact on his sexual desire or his erections. And that was the key belief that had to change before he could change his sexuality. We worked on that for a few months. Now, I want to talk about two guys with similar complaints but different profiles. And the first guy, Lee, he was having affairs and big difference in desire levels between Lee and his wife. And from the very first, he told me he was really attracted to his wife. He would have been happy to just have sex with her, but her desire level was much lower than his. Unfortunately, he took it personally, which is usually a mistake. He felt that he somehow wasn't attractive enough to trigger her desire for him. In contrast, when he slept with women he met at the gym or at his running club, he felt sure he was attractive. He wanted to stop having affairs, but he was afraid that without them, he'd collapse emotionally. So I said, it must be exhausting to have to keep proving your adequacy. This immediately brought him to tears, actually. I asked, "Was it your mother or your father whom you couldn't please?" Well, it was both. His father would get upset with anything less than perfect grades. and perfect trumpet recitals and perfect approval from the neighbors. And his mother would tell him if he only got straight A's, the house would be more peaceful, that his dad would stop yelling at his mother. I told him what he really needed was to believe he was good enough and to move on from his years of disappointing his parents. He didn't believe this could be done. But with hard work, his strong suit, and introspection, not his strong suit, he did it. He stopped needing the continuing validation of affairs, and when he could forgive himself, he developed a deeper connection with his wife. And their newfound softness in the relationship, it actually increased her desire for him and their ability to connect sexually. Now, Trey was in a similar but different situation. Before COVID, if you could remember that far back, before COVID, Trey traveled a lot for work. He developed a roster of sex workers across the country whom he would see, making dull business trips in dull cities more exciting. He wanted me to help him control himself and to help him persuade his wife to have more sex with him. Then his wife found out about the prostitutes, and he wanted me to help him with damage control. He told me that paid sex wasn't always that great, so I asked why he kept going back to it. Well, he said, I like the way these women make me feel. I know they're basically acting, but they're good at it. They make me feel desired, which I really need. And what about his wife's desire for him? Was that not enough? Oh, he said, with her, I'm vanilla. With prostitutes, I'm a bad boy. I can only be a good boy for so long before I want to bust out. Well, I encouraged Trey to talk to his wife about his desire to be a bad boy and his belief that this was unacceptable to her. Together, they explored this unnecessary dichotomy in his thinking. There's a part of him that instinctively resists authority, and sometimes he imagines authority that just isn't there, which was the case in his marriage. Exploring his unconscious belief that he had to rebel in order to maintain his adulthood, that was key to understanding his periodic choice to undermine the intimacy of his marriage. And that enabled him to invest more in his sex life with his wife and to find alternate ways to make the business trips he one day will have more enjoyable. Well, what this all proves is that sexual problems are rarely about sex because sex is rarely just about sex. Therefore, the solution to most sexual problems doesn't start with trying to make sex better with Viagra, with lingerie, losing weight, using handcuffs, but to investigate what non-sexual issues are getting in the way. While each of these four guys resisted my approach at first, each stayed with it and was eventually pleased with the result. Well, thanks for joining me. Oh, by the way, I publish one of these video quickies every few weeks, so if you'd like to get pinged when I do, just click on the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen and you'll hear about it whenever I publish one. And I'm Dr. Marty Klein. Thanks for joining me.